All right. Well, thank you guys. Good morning. Thanks for coming out to the first of our spring workshop series. We're really excited to get it kicked off and to start off with a topic that I was really interested in presenting and kind of talking about. And so we're going to be talking about technology. Know your ACC technology today. And so I'm Jordan. I'm an academic coach here at ACC, typically at the San Gabriel campus. Again, really excited. I think this is a super interesting topic and something that is going to help students a lot. And then I am joined by Val.
Yes, my name is Valeria Flint. I work part-time academic coach at a Highland campus, but now from the comfort of my home, I'm still able to provide the same service. So I'm very happy to be here and hopefully have an answer for all your questions. So today we're going to be covering a little bit of each of these topics. We know these are very broad, like for example, knowing how to navigate the whole ACC website, now knowing also how to get to everything you need to do with Blackboard, your classes, your assignments, tests, or whatever. We're just looking forward to answering questions more than anything. And also, we're going to be covering some of the uses, the main uses for Google Suite that you're going to be needing for your classes. And we definitely will save some time at the end for any questions that you might have. All right. So as always, remember that chat is open, but we welcome if you want to open your microphones and just go for any questions that you might have regarding what we're presenting or anything, any other situation that you might have encountered so far. So first thing that every ACC student needs to know in this online semester is that internet, reliable, secure connection is a must. And so, especially if you're submitting an assignment or if you're taking a test, and unfortunately, sometimes there are several areas around Austin and in Austin where that is not provided all the time. And so, what we encourage students to do is to drive to their near ACC campus, whatever is closer to you guys, and there you can have free, secure, totally reliable Wi-Fi connection. So make sure you bring your power cord or are able to charge it in your car if you haven't done so already at home. But that service is available from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. So we think that's something that you should definitely know. Also, the two things that you should download if you haven't done so already is your My ACC app and Blackboard app for your cell phone, whatever system it has, whether it's Android or iOS. You can have the same capabilities than the desktop website. However, from the comfort of taking that those sites with you wherever you go and wherever you're surprised with assignment due dates or so. So, Jordan, do you want to share your screen with some of these resources just in case there are any questions?
Absolutely. So we've linked to all the resources here that Val just mentioned. We'll just take a look at them one by one here. The Drive Up Wi-Fi, which we have a link to. At the end of this presentation, we'll be sending a takeaway with a link to all of these sites and the information mentioned. But just to take a look now, for sure, we got the Drive Up Wi-Fi, the hours and how it works. Really great feature, which is great as well. She also mentioned the MySCC. This is the desktop version. This is a really great landing page for students to use. It has a lot of quick links. Essentially, this is something that you could check as often as you would Blackboard. And a really great way to organize a lot of the information that you're going to need to navigate your courses and your time at ACC. And so again, as Val mentioned, they have a desktop version and a mobile app as well, which is great. And the same goes for the last resource that she talked about, which is Blackboard Learn. And so again, yeah, Blackboard has the desktop version and mobile app. We also have a really detailed, in-depth video of how to use Blackboard Learn. And as academic coaches, we have experience with that, and we do help support students with Blackboard-related issues. And so we definitely have a lot of information and support with that as well. Okay, and so let's move on to some more of our in-depth exploration of these apps. And we wanted to start off with just a question to kind of get a little engagement from the audience. And so thank you guys again for joining us. But as you can see here, the question is, how tech savvy are you? This is a tech-related workshop. We're talking about these necessary apps and tools that are going to be so useful for students to navigate their time in college. And so we want to kind of gauge the experience level right now. And so on a scale of 1 to 10, caveman to Einstein, if you could leave in the chat, or if you want to come off mic, you're more than welcome to let us know how tech savvy are you, and then Val will tell me the, the responses.
So we have a 6 so far, so
Okay.
right up there. Anyone else? How comfortable do you feel? Is there any particular area that you struggle with when it comes to Google Suite or any other kind of technology? Oh, we have a proficient person in the room. Yay, Chelsea. She's a 9.
All
Nancy's a
right.
6. So I guess hopefully there will be something useful for everyone, but we'll find out, I guess.
Yeah. It's a good mix. That's really great. I think it's really a learning opportunity. You can always find something useful and little tips and tricks that you may not have known. So great. Thanks for that, guys. So we're going to first talk about the LMS.
As mentioned earlier, there's some effort at ACC for all courses have met the Quality Matters certification. However, so most of them are going to look this way, where on your left-hand side, you're going to be able to see the main areas that you need access most often. So checking your announcements, your grades, what kind of assignments are due, every content that you need to view, that it's available to you, whether it's lecture notes, or study guides, whatever your professor has decided to provide you with this semester. And at the same time, as you click on each one of those items, you're going to be able to see additional content and decide whether you want to open them in a new window or not. So this is basically what Blackboard does. This is your learning management system at ACC. However, as I mentioned earlier, if you're using the mobile version, some of the features might look different, but they're definitely all there. And when it comes to submitting assignments, please make sure that you know which kind of format is required by or requested by your professor. So, for example, if you need to submit a PDF, you want to make sure that that's the format that you have saved the file in, and then just navigate through the tab system in order to complete that assignment. If there are any specific questions, please make sure to type them in the chat or just let us know. And as always, we're available pretty much all week from 9 to 6 mainly, but other days we open at 8 until 8 p.m. So if you want to make an appointment, we can definitely help you address whatever individual issues you're going through with submitting your assignments or any other Blackboard navigational issues. One feature that a lot of students unfortunately don't check as often as they should is the My Grades tab. So there, if your professor is submitting grades through Blackboard, you would be able to see everything there. And today we're going to have a little demonstration on how to calculate your grades on your own in case your professor is not using Blackboard to upload grades. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But if not, by clicking the My Grade tabs, it should give you all the information you need to see exactly how you're doing in that class. And if you need to improve or just keep doing awesome, all that information is going to be there.
Okay. So cool. And so to round off the ACC focused discussion, we've been talking about the Blackboard, the My ACC, Drive Up Wi-Fi. We're going to just explore a little bit of the key features of the website. It's really important to learn essentially how to navigate the website and some important features that you're going to want to use. It's such an underutilized resource by a lot of students, and a lot of them aren't aware of just how useful and accessible it is. And so we're going to talk about essentially some student resources, how to access departments, and how to search for information, how to essentially find what you're looking for. And so essentially, key feature that we want to highlight is the search bar. A lot of students are attempting to find a lot of stuff just based off of the homepage. And so let's take a look at the website really quick so you can see what I'm talking about. So main ACC website, we got austincc.edu. That's the fastest way to get there. A lot of students will stick around and just stay on the homepage and sort of just go on the very surface level stuff as far as what you can find. But you can get a lot more specific and find a lot more information based on a quick search. And so, for example, as we can kind of see on the slide, let's say you're looking for advising. Let's say you really want to meet with your advisor. If you just look at the homepage, it's kind of hard to find exactly where to go, especially if it's your first time and you've never been a student here before. And so let's just search. Let's say I really want to meet with my advisor. I'm going to search for advising. And it's usually very accurate, right? We've got areas of study advising, we got online advising. You can find a lot of information there. And you can get even more detailed than that based on the keywords that you use. Essentially, I would encourage you to think a little bit about the question that you're looking for or what information you're seeking, and use that search bar based on those keywords. That's essentially how it works best and how you're able to find information that may not be highlighted on the homepage. And so that's the search. Definitely a great tool. Definitely something I encourage students to use. We've also got some information on how to keep track of the semester. And so essentially, ACC, as I'm sure you all know, is very vibrant and busy, and there's always something going on. Even now, virtually, there's so many cool opportunities and just things to connect with and do. And so the first thing we want to take a look at is the events calendar. And so Student Life, great group, great organization here. They have their events calendar. So again, just sticking to our search feature here, let's just look at Student Life events and check them out. They've got some great upcoming stuff. Essentially, a lot of it is virtual and that centric. You can also get to it by just going to the Student Life page and clicking the Events tab. And again, you'll get links to all this stuff after the presentation today. But I think it's really great to have access to essentially a list of topics and things that can connect with you and have fun. And a lot of students right now are desperate for some more of that organic connection and getting back to something more extracurricular. And so a lot of the stuff is really interesting and diverse in terms of the topics and subject matter. So I think it's great. It's a great way to keep up with what's going in the semester and to just keep that energy going with the Student Life events. And so again, really great resource to be able to tap into and use, and you'll get links to that after the presentation today.
So one of the features that comes with being a student at ACC, of course, same thing for staff and faculty members, is access to dedicated Gmail account, but it's way more than just an email account. If Jordan could please click on it, would you mind sharing?
Sure. You want to take a look at the sidebar?
Yes.
Great.
Thank you. There are some tools that unfortunately not a lot of people have taken the time to explore. So first of all, I'd like to point out those 9 little circles on the next to your account information right there. Thank you so much. So you can rearrange those according to what you use most often. So if you are taking, for example, an English class and you're using docs a lot, then you might want to have it right then up there at the very top. You can rearrange all these icons to whatever suits your needs. Maybe you're taking a class with I don't know, art appreciation, where you're having to do a lot of presentations. So Slide's going to be the software tool that's going to help you create those amazing presentations. So whatever works best for you, you can make sure to customize it. And then another thing that we can do is use all the tools to help us stay on track for whatever we need to do. So if we get out of that little circle, thank you so much. On the right-hand side at the very top, we have like a mini version of the calendar. So rather than open a new tab, if we just click on it, it will give us a summary for today or whatever information you need to be on top of everything. If you still want to check something specific, maybe for next week or for next month, you can always click on the top arrow and open a new tab. However, a good way to also stay on track in a more detailed manner, in addition to using the calendar, would be using Google Keep or Google Tasks. So that would be the next little icons on that sidebar. And if we click on Google Keep, that's like pretty much having your digital version of Post-its. So maybe you're a fan of having Post-its everywhere, maybe you're not, but these are totally environmental friendly, and you can actually edit them. So not to mention color code them and add all kinds of digital media to them. So that I think it's an advantage versus the physical version in itself. And then if you want to organize them in a different manner, could you please click on the new tab? And so you can actually rearrange everything and add labels or any other information that will help you stay more organized. So as you can see, tons of different tools. But then again, this just takes time to explore and make sure that you customize it in the way that better suits your needs. So the last sidebar tool that we really want to highlight and recommend adopting, if you haven't done so already, is tasks. So for that, it comes specifically handy when you have all these assignments. And this first week, hopefully you already got a copy of your syllabus. And so the first thing that you would do, in addition to adding all the test dates to your Google Calendar, would be to start planning when you're going to start studying for those tests. And so maybe you want to add a task to prepare for chapter 1. You want to do it this weekend. So you can actually set, if you click on the pencil, you can set a date and time and even say, I'm going to tackle a specific section this Saturday, or, by adding little subtasks. Maybe the summary, you'll do it on Sunday, so on and so forth. Maybe you'll create your own lecture notes. When it comes to taking classes, we know it's different for the synchronous or asynchronous, but this tool will help you either way, at least to stay on track. And then if you can just save the task, Jordan, you get like a little brush when you click on completing it, when you check it off, and it's all done. And this is automatically synced with your calendar, so you don't have to do extra work. And you can actually also set reminders. So those will come up on whatever device is synced to your ACC account. So if you have your Gmail on your phone or your smartwatch, then you get those alerts everywhere.
Good stuff. Okay, so great. And so this will just continue our conversation with the Google Suite.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, we've talked about the ACC apps that are definitely useful and are super intuitive to use. We've got into a little bit of the sidebar and how you can use those tools and take advantage of those. And so now we're going to just get into the general Google Suite. And so the Google Suite essentially is a collection of different tools and apps and services that you can use. The best part is that they're all online. And so everything is backed up automatically, whether you're working on it on your laptop, or if you switch to your phone or use the computer at the library or anywhere else. It's all backed up, it's all accessible wherever you are, which is great and definitely super useful. We're just going to highlight a few of the tools that we definitely think are most applicable for students and are going to be super useful. We're going to use this time to do sort of a quick glimpse at these tools. If you haven't heard of one, and we'll definitely check in, we can do a more detailed look. And then after this, we're going to get into some scenarios of essentially how you could use that for a specific occasion. And so let's start off with the classic. I imagine this one is probably the most common and widely used one with college students. We've got Google Docs. And as you can see here, it is a word processor. You can write, edit, and back up all of your documents right in the cloud. Is there anyone here that has never seen or used Google Docs?
And I'm looking at the chat so far. I guess we're all familiar with it.
Great. And so again, just to remind, all of these are going to be accessible, as Val pointed out, through the little dots. You can get to it via your email, or anytime you open a new tab, you can see just these dots and find access to all the apps that we're mentioning here today. But great. Glad we've got Google Docs, essentially a really classic one, and we'll talk about some really specific and cool ways that you can use it in just a second. Next up, we got Google Slides.
So for the presentations that we were talking earlier, if you're more familiar with the Microsoft Office version, then this would be the equivalent of PowerPoint. So maybe that sounds a little bit more familiar to you, but you can create almost the same kind of presentation that you would with Office. Same thing if you're using Apple software, this would be the version of Google version of Keynote. So why am I saying this? Well, as probably all know, the Apple software comes included with their devices, but it's not accessible or even compatible with other devices. However, Google Suite and PowerPoint, Google Suite and Microsoft Suite, they are. And as ACC students, you have access to a free version of both. And so make sure that if you don't have it already, if you haven't created an account and have access to them, one or both of them, make sure you do that. If you don't know how to, please let us know. But just to get a quick glimpse of it, if you could click on the Microsoft Suite, please, Jordan. I'm sorry, Google Suite, the slides version.
Gotcha.
I just want to make sure that this is a question that we get a lot. Sometimes a professor asks for an assignment to be submitted. It has to be a presentation, but for whatever reason, somebody has a problem uploading to Blackboard. So one of the easy fixes that you can do with this would be to create a presentation just as with any other software, whether it's PowerPoint, Keynote, or slides. You would just create one from a template or maybe from a brand new presentation. So let's just click on blank, that little plus sign. And as we're going to be adding different slides depending on whatever our needs are. So once we're done with this presentation, we want to make sure that we click on File. Then Download. And there, as you can see, there are different options. So the most compatible and lighter file to upload to Blackboard would be a PDF document. So you can save any kind of Google Doc or slides or sheets, which would be the equivalent of Excel spreadsheet, as a PDF document. And so once you do that, you're going to have a PDF document that you can edit, you can share, and you can definitely upload to Blackboard, possibly without any difficulty that you could have encountered when trying to do it in a different format. So I think that's one of the main questions that we have. Is there any other difficulty that you have encountered when using slides, or have you even worked with slides before? I'd like to see in the chat if there's any other questions that we might answer, or if we are good to move forward. Let us know. All right, so it seems like we're good to go, Jordan. So what do we have next?
All right. So we've got Google Docs, we've got Google Slides, and now we're going to talk about Google Sheets. And so this one, just like Docs and Slides are probably the most common, I would say that this one is probably the least common. Google Sheets is one of those things where you could use it for years and still not be anywhere close to an expert with how many features and how much functionality there is in this tool. And so, as you can see here, Google Sheets, it's essentially creating spreadsheets, which is just a way to record and process information. That is sort of the baseline foundation for what you can do. And there's surprisingly a lot of creativity. You can kind of build up from there. And so I would love to hear in the chat or off the mic, what are some of the ways in which you have utilized Google Sheets?
And while we're waiting for them to let us know about Google Sheets, if there's a specific question or concern, I just wanted to point out, Nancy mentions that Google Slides seems to have limited design options. I completely agree with that, especially when compared to the other software tools mentioned. However, I think all of them have their different strengths and weaknesses, so it's totally up to whichever better suits your needs. So Chelsea mentions a monthly budget. That's a great idea to use a spreadsheet.
Absolutely. That is a great example of how to use a spreadsheet. And so to sort of make a connection between that and something we mentioned before about the ACC website, there's a really great department at ACC, the Student Money Management Office. And if you've never used Google Sheets and you wouldn't even know how to create something like that, like a monthly budget, they have one that's already pre-made for you. This is something that I just thought of now, so I don't have it like linked by any chance, but let me see if I can just find it really quick.
Sure. And we do have it linked in the takeaways, so you don't have to worry about that one.
Yeah, we can definitely add that there. And so, yeah, this is really great. So the Student Money Management Office, you could use the semester or monthly budgeting. And the way that they have it is that they have a link to their Google Sheets budget template where you could see an example of that, of how to use it for a budget. So thank you, Chelsea, for doing that and for mentioning that. And so this is great. Essentially, a way of you can create a budget, creating something that you can keep track of, that's sort of planned out. I particularly like the semester one because it prompts you and has you factor in your financial aid. It has you factor in your work or grants or just keep track of essentially where your money is coming from. And so that's a great use for it, and I definitely recommend that. But what I specifically wanted to share in regards to that for students is what we've done is we put together an example of how you could use it to keep track of your grades as well. And so as Val mentioned before, with Blackboard, sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming or confusing to look at. You have different weighted options, you have different types of assignments, and sometimes they're not updated automatically. And so you can sort of be at a loss for how you're doing. And so what we've done is put together a spreadsheet, an example of how you can keep track of your grades. And you'll get a link to this to make a copy after the presentation. But essentially, this is a way for you to kind of take that ownership and self-sufficiency to the next level.
And
So
we have
yeah,
a question from Nancy. She's, she hasn't used Google Sheets before, so she'd like to know if it's easier to navigate than Excel.
I would say yes. Based on my experience, and I'm by no means an expert in Sheets or Excel, I would say that it is, in the way that there's less things sort of jumping out at you on the page. If you were to open Excel, it's kind of a lot more functionality built in, which is great if you're looking to use more of those detailed tools. I will say that Google Sheets, what we're looking at now, is simpler. You essentially just have this toolbar to look at. And it's the same functionality there, but it's a lot less sort of in your face. And I think that if you're looking for something that's not super overwhelming, that is more easy to kind of break down and intuitive, I would definitely recommend Google Sheets as a starting point. And so great question, Nancy. And so, yeah, let's just look at an example really quick of how you can use the student grade tracker. For example, let's just say that we've got homework that was, oops, spelled wrong. Okay. We got homework. Let's say I did my homework and turned it in yesterday. Let's say that there was 100 possible points, and this will tell you that on Blackboard. It'll tell you how many points are possible for the assignment. And let's say I earned a 87, which is awesome. I did really well on that. And let's say I also had a quiz, and I did a quiz today. And there were 100 possible points again, and I earned a 79, let's say. Not my best, but passed. What it does is it takes into account the points possible, the points earned, and it averages those two assignments for you, which is really great to be able to keep track of those things, especially if they are broken down and have sort of equivalent point scales. But sometimes they don't, right? Sometimes that they're weighted different, or quizzes are worth more, or homework's worth less, or there's a test that's worth 40%. And so what we've done here is also created an example of how to sort of process your different weighted grades. And so what you want to do is take your grade, right? For example, let's look at the homework one. Let's say right now my homework grade is an 87. And let's say that my test grade right now is an 80 flat. Homework is worth 50, and tests are worth the other 50.
And if you're wondering where you would get that information, if you have weighted tests or how much they weight, when we're talking about your class grade,
Hmm.
that information is going to be on your syllabus.
Yeah.
And if it's not there, then please make sure to contact your instructor.
Mhm. Which is great. And so essentially what it does is it sort of tallies that together, or it should. Oh, I guess the equation left. But essentially what it'll do is it multiplies your grade by the weight, and it comes up with the total, and then you'll get your overall grade down at the bottom, which is really helpful, especially for weighted stuff, because it's not always 50-50. As I'm sure you've seen in your classes. Sometimes tests are worth a lot more, or kind of spaced out like that. And so what I really like about Excel is that you can put in these formulas and equations to help you sort of process and keep track of that, which is great and definitely a really useful tool to be able to use. And so if you would like more information about that, you'll get a copy of this, but I definitely encourage you to connect with myself, and we can talk more about Google Sheets and how to use it for your course, which is great. Um, so let's go ahead and go on. I think we got a couple more things on the Google Suite to highlight before we get into our scenarios. Sheets. All right, Google Drive.
So that would be your um, pretty much your personal cloud. So if you don't mind clicking on Drive,
Sure.
Jordan, that would be great representation, and pretty much you can save absolutely everything. That's the one of the advantages of using slides, docs, and sheets rather than using Microsoft Suite, which would be Word, PowerPoint, or Excel, or any other of the Apple software. Everything that you create while you're on the Google ecosystem, it gets automatically saved. So you don't even have to click on anything. You don't have to remember to do it. It just gets stored here. So there's a very generous storage limit that you can use. So pretty much just, I'm pretty confident it will be enough throughout your stay at ACC. And all the documents that you have used more recently would be listed first, but you can create your own workspaces if you can scroll a little bit down. So for example, if you want to just, if you can click on create workspace, and maybe you're taking a psychology class and you would put that there. So psychology, and then just add all the documents, for example, that you're going to be using this week. And so that will be listed separately from all the other classes that you're taking. Same thing if you happen to have something for your job, or maybe there's a personal project that you're working on, you might keep them separated by using that feature of workspaces, but also you can create folders, organize them, and sort them as much as fits your needs, and however you want to color code them or organize them. Just to put it in a more simple way, this is a great time saver when it comes to keeping you organized and on track of what you need to do, in addition to the other tools that we've mentioned. And if you're working with other classmates on group projects, you can definitely use the, maybe they send something to you, so you would find those files in the Shared with Me tab on the left. And if you want to create a specific cloud that would be storing all the documents for a group of people, then you might want to click on Share Drives and create your own shared drive and add those classmates that are going to be part of your group project. This might scare some people when it comes to privacy, but actually whoever is creating the documents gets to own them and set those settings as much as it better suits whatever they're doing. So if they want to give editing privileges to other students, or perhaps just viewing so they can comment, or editing access, that's up to them. So all of this is very customizable, and that's why we want to make sure you know about it. Okay, so I think I've summed it up quite a bit.
Okay. And remember, guys, as we go along, feel free to jump in with any questions you have, and we'd be happy to take a closer look at any particular issues you've encountered with any of these apps. But last one is Google Forms. And so this one I would categorize alongside with Google Sheets as probably not super common, not super commonly used as far as the Google Suite umbrella. And so Google Forms essentially is a platform where you're able to create and share surveys to gather information quickly and efficiently, as we can kind of see here. And so it's essentially a tool that you can use to gather information from other classmates, from people that you're working on a project with. It is a really great way to get a lot of detail and to prompt people for exactly what you need. And so let's just look at an example really quick of Google Forms and what it looks like and what you can do with it. And so again, all the stuff accessible right via your menu here. We're going to go to Google Forms. Has anyone here ever used Google Forms? And if so, what for?
Please feel free to open your mics or you can type it in the chat.
Yeah.
So Albany shares that she's used it to gather feedback. Monica has been getting information from a group of people. All great uses and exactly what I think it's best suited for. Although you can customize it so much that probably you'll use it in more ways than expected.
Well, great. Yeah, those are perfect. Absolutely great uses. And as you can see here, again, similar with Google Slides, the templates are going to save you a lot of time. It's a lot easier to just work with something that's already kind of pre-made versus doing it from scratch. And Google Forms, I would say especially, has some really great and detailed templates that they've set up already. And so for a lot of those things, for surveys, like Abadi mentioned, for finding a time, and let's look at that one really quick because I think it's a really good example. And so let's say that you're working on a group project. Let's say you have a presentation that you're putting together and you need to find a time when you can meet and connect with your team. And so you could start an email thread as we looked with the Gmail, but you could also save a little bit of time and do something a little bit more engaging by creating a Google form to collect all this information. And so for example here, you can kind of put this, you can let them know that you want to connect virtually. Let's connect virtually. You can have them put in some different times that they're available, and this is all customizable and editable, by the way. And you can add any items that they want to discuss. It has here, this was an example of like an in-person thing, I'm assuming, of food that they would want for snacks. But essentially, yeah, it's a really great tool for gathering information quickly and accurately. I think a lot of times we've all been in that position where we tend to sort of miss certain details, or we always hate sending emails with like tons of questions in them because it seems so long. And so put it in a Google form, and have it be that way, that much easier and that much more efficient for that audience, which is great. And so we'll look at some more uses of that in a second. But with that's the last Google Suite tool, I believe. Let me double check, that we wanted to highlight. And so now we're going to move into some scenarios of how you can use these for your specific classes.
And Sam said she really likes the Google form. So I said we totally agree with her. So
Yeah,
hopefully more
absolutely.
people will be using them.
Love Google Forms. All these are really great tools to use and just to be aware of. They're things that kind of slip by us. I definitely think they're really awesome. And so great. So this is a little, hopefully a moment to get a little interactive, hear more from the audience, to talk through some of these tools and things that we can use. And so we have a little sort of collection of scenarios here that we'll go through. We have the apps that we've mentioned sort of outlined on the side here. And so what we want to do is talk through these scenarios and see which tools you can use. And we've purposefully left them open-ended. And so a lot of these tools can probably apply for the same scenario. So number one, your English professor has just assigned you an essay and it's due in 2 weeks. You got an essay due in 2 weeks. What's your first move? Which of these tools can you use to help you with this task? And I would love to hear in the chat, or if somebody wants to come off the mic and talk through it.
So Sam says she would use Google Calendar.
Absolutely. Very great tool there. I think Sam's highlighting or zeroing in on the 2 weeks. And so absolutely, you can go ahead and add that event to your calendar. And so let's look at an example of how to do that. As we took a look at before, we've got the sidebar here, which you could use. I would recommend opening up the full big version. And so let's see, we've got 2 weeks from today, we would go ahead and create a calendar event. We could say that my essay is due and add it here, right? Which is great. And I definitely think that that would be my first step as well. I know that I have an essay due. I want to make sure that I know about it well in advance. And so definitely want to add that there. Zeroing in on that time thing again, you can also add it as a task, right? As Val highlighted for us, you can add a task of the specific steps that you want to do.
And
So
actually, Monica says she would start brainstorming and then creating an outline on Google Docs. So those, I think, are great examples for subtasks that you can add on that
absolutely.
task page.
And so we can do subtasks, right? We can say that I want to brainstorm, create an outline. We need to do that. Just keeping track of those things. It's a lot easier to do things when they're broken down like that into more manageable chunks and steps. And so, absolutely, brainstorming, creating an outline, gathering my sources, whatever else you would need to do for this essay, doing your drafts. Definitely creating those tasks there. Um, and so, Google Docs, absolutely great tool. Calendar, tasks. Going back to some of the first stuff we mentioned, you could also use the ACC website, right? So you may want to consider connecting with a tutor to be able to work through some of your questions on your essay, or to get some more information about formatting, or just talk through some of your specific concerns, or get some feedback. And so you can connect with a tutor using the ACC website. And so again, even if I'm a brand new student and I have no idea how to do that, I don't see it up here, what I would do is I'm just going to search. I need a tutor. So I'm going to search tutor. We got online tutoring that we can connect with, and go through that process as well. And you'll get a link to that again after we're done with today. But yeah, absolutely. Definitely a great resource and tools there.
We have lots of love appreciation for tutors in the chat.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is the online tutor the same as the Learning Lab tutor?
Yes. Yeah. So right now, the Learning Lab is fully online. It is the same tutors, as far as I'm aware. They're just doing essentially virtual one-on-one connections with students. Where did I put that?
Because I know at one point there was like that online tutoring that was outside of ACC and it wasn't actually IAs.
Yeah, so that was an initiative that was tested out via specific campuses, as far as I'm aware. And forgive me, it's been a while, and things have changed a lot in just this past year. And so, as far as I know right now, all of the tutors are online. And so, I imagine that those were the tutors that were originally meant for solely online, have just become part of the team and are probably leading the way in a lot of ways with this. But essentially, you book now, you have access to all of the tutors that we have available, based on your subject and questions that you have for your class. And they usually are. I've never had a student that has complained about not being able to connect with the tutor when they need to. So they're definitely available. They're definitely here, and they want to meet with you. They want to help you. So take advantage of that.
And that's a great way to solve the scenario, I think. Would you agree, Jordan?
Yeah, perfect stuff. A lot of great tools that you can use here, and definitely I would feel confident in that essay. And so let's move on to the next one. We've got a group presentation. So let's say I have a group presentation and I need to set up a meeting. I need to discuss some stuff with my group mates, and we need to brainstorm out some ideas. What can we do? What tools can we use here?
So I did mention a way maybe to find a time. Perhaps we need to create a presentation for sure, but before we meet, we might even start on our own. So what would be the best tools that we would use to address this scenario?
So we've got the obvious ones, right? Like, of course, you're going to need a presentation, and so you might as well get that started, as Val mentioned. And so having your Google slide, definitely getting that started. We showed an example of how to use Google Forms to find a time. I definitely encourage that. I think that's a great method of communication. We've got Gmail to use as the primary method of contact using your ACC email account. You can use Google Keep to start some notes and to get a meeting agenda down for when you do have that group meeting. And then let's just walk through again how to share. Essentially, what you may want to do is get the PowerPoint started and then share it so that you can collaborate with someone. And so, for example, let's say that I'm in a project with Val. And so what I want to make sure is that whatever I'm doing, Val can see it. And if I want her to be able to edit it, that she can do that. And so let's just save this really quick. And I'm just going to add Val. I really want to be able to work with Val and have her doing those things. And so I can add her as an editor. I can make her just able to comment if I don't want her to really change anything right now, or I can just let her see it to see what I'm doing. And they get an email as soon as you share this with them so they can start working on it too. And so I definitely encourage you, if you are doing a group project, to have that open communication and to have those boundaries set early on, which is great. And so that's awesome. That's the second scenario. Let's go ahead and move right on through. I think we got a couple more. All right, next one. Class.
We should do, in the interest of time, maybe we should skip to the questions. What do you think, Jordan?
Sure. Let's see. We've got like 7 minutes left. Are there any particular questions or anything that anybody would like to take a closer look at now?
So far, so good. Just as good information.
Okay.
And we realize that there's a lot of, that perhaps we still need to play with and explore in our own time. So please remember that this is by no means an all-inclusive resource. It's just to give you the main features and what everyone should know, the most commonly used. So if there's anything else, we're always available to answer.
Sure. And so since we don't really have any questions and we do have a couple extra minutes, let's just take a quick look at the takeaways that you're going to receive. And I do want to give a shout out to the next workshop going on. We've got the top 10 ways to get the most out of ACC. That is happening next week. We've got it there. You can RSVP using the same link. It is going to be really great. I definitely encourage you to attend that one as well. Some really good stuff coming. But here's the takeaway form, essentially, that you'll receive after this presentation with links to everything that we went over today. Okay.
All right. And is there any way that you can highlight how to make an appointment with a coach, Jordan, before we wrap it up?
Yes, I can. Okay. And so this is the takeaway form that we've got here, and you'll get a chance to take a look at that. Again, all the links and everything are going to be updated on there. We've pointed out some resources that we definitely think are relevant. The coaching, the tutoring, advising, all mentioned here today. As Val pointed out as well, you can definitely connect with the coach if you want more one-on-one help or need some support with anything that we talked about today. Easiest way to get to us is going to be going to austincc.edu/coaching, but it's also going to be linked on that takeaway form. Brings you to our main page. We've got our book now button over here on the right, where you're able to now schedule directly on our calendar. And so whoever's available, you can go ahead and connect with them based on whatever time works for you. As you can see, today's Thursday. I can get an appointment on Thursday if I want, which is really great. So same day appointments, definitely. I encourage you guys to connect to get some support with the tech stuff, with the study skills, time management, everything that's going to make you feel more confident and prepared for success at ACC. But again, we really thank you guys for joining us today. That is the gist of everything we wanted to share, and I'm glad we got to get to everything. Any last minute questions while we are here?
And we can stay online a little bit longer, but other than that, again, thank you so much. As Jordan said, that's the gist, and we really appreciate you coming and joining us today. The coaching website is on the chat, so you can just click on it and check all our other resources. And to schedule an appointment, hopefully. So we'll see you soon. Thank you, everyone.